Rohastsu Sesshin, 2017, fifth talk. It is truly wonderful to practice with so many people of the way. So many people who have the aspiration to benefit others. And when we as a community join together, there's a powerful influence that's generated. And may that influence spread out and influence our whole country, our whole world. And may each of us awaken fully to the bright, clear mind of wisdom and know the open heart of compassion. The Dharma in China, it's said, began with one person, Bodhidharma. And from that one person, he had one or two disciples. And from those one or two disciples, they had a few more until there was a geometric progression. And China was filled with Dharma. May it be so in this era. Sesshin is the fruit of this aspiration. And it is the manifestation of that fruit. That is, Sesshin is the fruit of all the causes and conditions that led to this, and the very fact that we are here is the fruit, and this leads to the fruit, embodies the fruit, which is the fruit that nourishes, can nourish all beings. As I mentioned earlier, don't let anything that's said here be confusing. If you have any confusion at all, ignore what I say and listen to Chosen. If you have any doubt who to go see her. Quite serious. So may this be an addition, supplement to that teaching. So how do we actually arrive at this place? At this day, at this time, at this point? And I think for any of us looking back at the mysterious thing we call the past, throughout every decision point, given our circumstances and state of mind, we made the very best decision. And in a way, we have always made the very best decision. And our goal, at many levels, is clear. But practice is not about the goal. It's about the process of engagement. The goal of enlightenment is important, but the process of paying attention to the truth over and over and over again, that's where the fruit is found. And if we get our goals and the process mixed up, and then the mind of evaluation steps in and says, well, how much longer? Are we there yet? So the process of Zazen is the process of engaging the present moment, engaging the movement of this unfindable moment fully, looking for the truth that is embodied right here, right now. It is through this dynamic process that goals manifest, truth becomes evident. It is not because we look for them. If we were looking for a goal, it means we'd have some idea of what we were trying to find, and then we keep trying to find our idea. And that isn't the way it works. So it's wonderful to practice here with so many mature people. Everyone here has been to Sesshin before. Everyone here has some real experience of Dharma. Everyone here must have tasted recognized some of the fruits of practice. Otherwise, you would not have returned a second time. I often feel that anybody can stumble into a sesshin the first time, but to come a second time means that we actually had to make a decision. We had some idea of what we were getting into, and we consciously decided that this was important. Such a person is talked about in the koan of Bodhidharma, pacifying the mind. Huiko, when we chant in the lineage, the second ancestor in our lineage after Bodhidharma, which was about, they say 500 years after Buddhism entered China. Buddhism entered China around the turn of the millennium. And the tradition says that Huiko was very well educated. He was somebody who was in love with nature. He became a Buddhist monk in his early 20s. He studied all forms of Dharma with many kinds of teachers. And one day he was doing sesshin, and he had a compelling vision, which told him to go to Shorin Temple and to see the silent monk who was practicing there. So this is a 40-some-year-old person. A lot of experience, a lot of wisdom, a lot of insight. History says he was an extraordinary. So the fact that he went to see Bodhidharma, that's where it really gets interesting to me. So all of us can look at our own life and our own example and think, what does an intelligent, experienced person who has been practicing for years, why would we come to Sesshin? Why would somebody like Huiko go to see Bodhidharma? It's important to look at that part of ourselves. Tori Zenji, who was Hakuin Zenji's senior Dharma heir in the 1700s, he says that when people's zazen strength matures, that is, they have the ability to actually concentrate, they have the ability to hold their mind where they want to put their mind, they have the ability to actually enter a kind of samadhi. Then he says that when their zazen strength matures, followers of the way may experience commendable meritorious states. Commendable meritorious states. I like that. And when this happens, insight arises. For example, insight into the emptiness of all things. Seeing the dreamlike nature of reality. Or seeing the total equality of all things. All things are just mind. All things are just awareness. All things in themselves have no particular valence. They have no particular charge. We add that all to them. Or seeing directly that everything is completed. That this moment is the culmination of all of history. All time. And because of that, there's nothing more to do. Or seeing that this very body, this room, this moment, these trees, this sound, this is it. Just as they are. Things just as they are. Whole and complete, lacking nothing. Or many other states. He says that this is the realm of delusion. They're meritorious in the sense that they happen after people have been concentrating and after people have been settling their mind and focusing the mind, then interesting things open up. But regardless of what interesting things open up, it is impermanent. Regardless of what interesting states we encounter, they are flowing through. Now, it's very helpful, I think, to have experiences like these or other experiences that people touched. The emptiness of self or the isness of mind. Because when we have an experience, and the experience, of course, disappears because all things that come go, all things that appear disappear. It's the nature of things. Because when we have an experience like that, then we are practicing based upon some faith. We begin to know, oh, the Heart Sutra is actually talking about something tangible, or as tangible as emptiness gets. The Heart Sutra is, the sutras, these chants that we do are actually pointing at direct experience. I, too, have tasted these direct experiences to some degree. And they disappear, and we keep practicing because we have a faith that is based upon our having touched something genuine. So some people have profound insight, and some of these can be quite profound. It's quite wonderful. But if we think that that is the culmination of practice, then of course we're all deluding ourselves. Practice cannot be a state, it cannot be a particular understanding. They used to say in the old mind training program EST, understanding is the booby prize. Understanding is, I've realized something, I put it in a box, I'll hang on to it and cherish it, carry it around. And eventually open the box and see that it's died. And of course, for all of us who are trying to share the Dharma with our family or students or friends, what probably is most helpful is the acknowledgement of our own lack of understanding. That's got more juice to it than I know. But what keeps us going? What keeps some of us going, at least? It is possible to encounter really comfortable places and to rest in those places. But I think my limited experience is that whenever we have some kind of genuine opening, some kind of genuine insight, it opens our heart to the world. That we begin to be penetrated by the endless suffering of the ordinary world. And whenever we hear about another bomb, another hurricane, another fire, another mass murder, another genocide, or the ordinary experience of cancer, heart disease, relationships breaking up or breaking down, we're affected because we have actually tasted the interpenetration of all things. There's a very, very famous story. One of Hogen's disciples, an elderly woman who was regarded as having a deep awakening experience. And her grandchild died. She was crying bitterly. And people came and said, well, you're an advanced student of Hogen's. How can you cry over something like a grandchild dying? She says, it's because of my awakening I cry so deeply. If we have some genuine openings, then we have a genuine touching of the world's pain. Often in practice, people start off with dukkha, with distress. And they feel that it's just my distress, my history, my personal, my body, my whatever. But as we practice more and more, we realize that's simply a resonance. of the world's distress. That our pain is not just our pain, but it's our particular way of tapping into the world. Now, the four immeasurables are true, and so some people get to tap into the joys of the world and have sympathetic joy, and some people get to tap into the equanimity of the world. Some people get to tap into the suffering and dukkha, have compassion of the world. Some people get to tap into the loving kindness of the world. But in this particular koan we're going to talk about, he taps into the dukkha. He has long practice. He opened his heart. His heart is not at peace because the world is not at peace. All of us have read many of the great masters' words about liberation. And frankly, without having talked to all of you directly, I guarantee that for you, just like me, if we look into our hearts and we compare our experience with the great master's expression, we have some work to do. Hui Ko, who we're not concerned about the history of a particular person, but the archetypal myth. Hui Ko, every person who is on the spiritual path, who is afflicted, affected, penetrated by the suffering of the world, who, despite all of his efforts to ease that suffering, to end it, despite all of his efforts and hard work over the course of many years, decades, his heart was not at rest. Here's the koan. The great Master Bodhidharma was sitting, facing a wall. Hui Ko came, and he was ignored. Hui Ko stood all night in the snow. Finally, in the morning, Bodhidharma turned and recognized him and said, "You've been standing there a long time. You must be really cold. What do you want?" Hui Ko says, "I want truth. I want understanding. I want liberation." And Bodhidharma kind of slaps him and says, "You're so arrogant. You come here wanting something for nothing. Why should I bother giving you any insight or helping you?" And at that point, Hui Ko sacrifices a part of himself. And then Bodhidharma says, "Well, okay. I see you've let that go. What's the problem?" And Hui Ko says, my heart is not at rest. My heart is not at rest." And the Bodhidharma says, "Well, bring your heart here. Let me see it." And Hui Ko says, "I've searched exhaustively for it, but I can't find it." And then Bodhidharma says, "There. It's completely at rest." That's the whole koan, or at least some extemporaneous version of it. So Hui Ko, whose heart was not at rest, but his faith was profound, went to see Bodhidharma. It's like us going to see the Dalai Lama, or going to see Thich Nhat Hanh. We have a kind of faith that, yes, this person embodies something, or Roshi embodies something. And I'm going to go and meet them, connect with them, see if they can offer me any guidance or wisdom or clarification. So Hui Ko, the archetypal seeker on the path, arrives in front of this master in his cave. And the scene, you can imagine the scene. It's winter. Bodhidharma is way up the side of a mountain. The cave, at least some cave is up there right now in Shaolin Temple, Shorin Temple. You can actually walk up to it and sit in it. So it's cold. It's cold, much colder than it was here last night. It's cold and it's snowing. It's bitter. And as he walks, as he meets, as he comes to this teacher, Bodhidharma, he's completely ignored. Now, what would make somebody stay there? Why would this person stay? I mean, obviously he has faith. Obviously he has great patience, great determination. In a way, it's just like all of us. Here we come to Sesshin, and Sesshin is difficult, and our legs hurt, and our back hurts, and our mind writhes, at least for a while. Sometimes I've had maybe a decade of very difficult Sesshin. It's all temporary. And he stands there, and he stands there, and it's cold, and it's snowing, and it's wet. What keeps us standing in the spiritual path? What keeps us standing? Investigating. What keeps us sitting late at night? Why don't we just take, there's a lot of easier ways to be. I'm talking to old people my age, and they talk about retiring. You know, we all kind of agree that the very best way to die fast is to do nothing. Just to say, I'm going to live the life of Riley, and I'm going to just lay back in my hammock and watch TV and do nothing. Not do nothing in the Zen sense, but do nothing in the lazy loafer sense. And, you know, people die very quickly that way. So what keeps us going? Now, I doubt that he actually, you know, the koan has him standing there in the snow, not moving. And I suspect that if we were looking realistically at the situation, it probably wouldn't be. He's sitting there like a stick. You know, it's hard work. It's hard to stay up at night. It's hard to be in the cold. And there is a kind of samadhi that happens when we're really, really still, when we're not letting the mind quiver an inch. There is a deep place that is still and solid. But, you know, he probably had to pee and probably walk back and forth a little bit. Maybe he did some mooing, which I think Shanae is going to lead people in tonight, to rouse energy. Or maybe he was just completely fervid. Maybe he was just a completely so totally in agony that kept him going, kept him awake. This is about, of course, our spiritual quest. So I hope, I'm sure that everybody who's actually come to Sesshin more than once has in their heart a longing for freedom, a longing for release. And I am sure that if you really have that deep longing, that at some point you have been pushed right up against the wall of your own suffering. That you have felt despair in the dark of the night. That your pain was so great that you called out. That you actually were so deeply touched by the agony of the world that you could not sleep or rest. This is the archetypal spiritual path, is climbing a tough mountain, descending into a dark cave. But along with that, perhaps you have felt God's touch. Perhaps Allah spoke to you. Perhaps you have tasted the vast, spacious mind. Perhaps you chanted the Heart Sutra and got to the line and was relieved from all suffering and knew that was true. And perhaps when you've been lying in the dark of a night, begging for help, the wholehearted aspiration to no longer be cut in two, to no longer be split and torn. Perhaps you remembered something you tasted, touched, saw. Huiko standing here represents all of that in this koan. And his response, when he is standing there waiting for some miracle to come, for somebody to whack him on the head and say, "Oh, there you go." For some sunlight to beam down from the sky and say, "Voila, you are completely liberated." What does he get? He gets silence. He gets the silence of God. He gets, in the darkness of his despair, he gets darkness. And yet, we keep standing there. And yet, we keep coming to Sesshin after Sesshin, returning over and over with passion, with determination, with desperation. And we have to go through that dark, tight place. That place that we don't know what's going on. That place where we are blind. That place where our fixed views of how things are going to be are all frustrated. We have to go down into that dark cave. Roshi Kapleau used to quote the line from the old masters, "Until you go through the winter that bites into your bones, how can plum blossoms regale you with their piercing fragrance?" You go through the winter that bites into your bones, how can plum blossoms regale you with their piercing fragrance? Part of the sweetness of the path, part of the power of the path, part of the taste of the path is the entire human experience from top to bottom. And to walk this spiritual path and only say, "I only want the hot top half," doesn't do it. Spiritual path means that we are going to touch the whole of the realms of existence. See them as they are. It is important, it's imperative, it is essential to go through the dark nights. There are many different ways those can come. And to bear them with faith, with patience, with not knowing. We all secretly hope that our spiritual path will be one of peace and serenity, prosperity. There's a nice book there's a nice teaching in another tradition called prosperity theology. Good people get lots of money. There's a book on the Buddha's teachings about prosperity, and they're very, very healthy, reasonable teachings. But we all like what Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the guy who was martyred by the Nazis in World War II, we all are kind of hoping for cheap grace. For grace that does not demand anything from us. So Bodhidharma, when Miko is standing there in the dark of the night, and he's standing there with his heart despairing, hopeful, filled. He says nothing. But finally, he stays long enough, Wiko does. The Bodhidharma says, well, what do you want? Wiko gives him this very simple, very straightforward thing. My heart's not at rest. Help me. Now, heart being at rest is if it's a state, it's only a temporary thing. So when we're asking that and we're thinking, oh, I want this temporary thing to be permanent, that's not the place this koan goes. That I will get my heart at rest and I'll be a happy, cheerful, whatever. And Bodhidharma hears this very genuine request and he whacks him. He says, you arrogant, stupid person. What right have you? What right have you to want this, know this? Now, most of us, whenever we encounter some of the challenges of life, when life does that sort of thing to us, we immediately turn and say, yeah, you're right, I got to get out of here. But life is always hitting us one way or another. Life is always kind of challenging us and saying, why do you deserve that? Go away. You're inadequate. You're broken. You're incomplete. Forget it. You're a stupid fool. And can we take that dark night and just keep standing there? Let that go through. Let that go through. Let all things go through. Because, there's a part of us that's a stupid fool. Part of us is completely broken and inadequate. It's the way it is. Never goes away. It's part of the inclusive awareness of all things. You don't suddenly have some big experience and suddenly there is nothing broken, but that brokenness itself. But when we're in the midst of suffering, what would we do to get relief? When we're in the midst of deep suffering, what would we be willing to offer? When we're sitting with somebody whom we love who is sick, a child who is ill, what would we give to help them, to help ourselves? What would we sacrifice? Well, this test is, are you willing to actually sacrifice something? Are you actually willing to give up part of yourself? Are you actually willing to let go of your arrogant, self-conceited views of things? Who you think you are? Oh, I'm so special. I'm a Zen teacher. I'm so special. So this koan comes down now to the part, how do we let go of some cherished part of ourselves? In the koan, Wiko cuts off his arm. And if you've ever tried to cut yourself, it's not an easy thing to do. You just happen to have a super razor-sharp sword right handy and happen to be frozen cold with everything is numb and you can't feel your arms. Maybe you can take a whack at it. I don't know. It's unlikely that that's actually what's going on. But what he's asking for is, are you willing to let go of a part of yourself? Are you willing to let go of this cherished part of yourself? Are you willing to let go of these fixed ideas of your own arrogance, of your own center of the gravity of the universe is centered right on you? It's not about do something ascetic, rip off all your clothes and go running naked through the woods, and then you'll have an awakening experience. It's about what can we look at acknowledge as not being our essential nature and let it go. The ultimate letting go is the separation between observer and observed. And fortunately, there are people who don't have to go through this particular path. It's just a path. But the separation between I am and I know that I'm aware of that fundamental separation involves us letting go of our cherished view. And so this is the pivot part of the koan. Bodhidharma then says, well, show me your mind. Show me the separation. Show me who you are. What was your face before your parents were born? Where was your consciousness, which you call I, before you were born? What does this consciousness, what happens to this consciousness when you are born or when you die? Where will you go? Who are you? And that is the fundamental question of Dharma. We all get down to the place we can say, well, I am, but who is aware of I am? And just the fact that I'm aware of I am means that there's already still a fundamental, very deep split in the universe. Because I'm aware of I am, I'm aware of you, I'm aware of the world, I'm aware of galaxies. And how do we actually heal that split? I am. I am aware I am. I know that I am. I am sitting right here. In a way, we can say that is the fundamental thing that we all recognize. I'm sitting right here. You can't argue me out of that. What is it that's aware of that? How do we take another step? We can't do it with a rational mind. And Bodhidharma says, look, show me, look, show me the split. Show me that there's anything. And then Wiko says, I have searched exhaustively. I have looked for my whole life. I have looked standing here this night. I have looked for the last 20 years. I have looked since I was a child. This question has been in my heart. Who am I? And right now it comes to a culmination. He asks this question, who are you? I can't find anyone. Now, all of you who've been to many kinds of retreats, know there's different kind of practices that we go through. We look at emptiness. We can't find a self. All that stuff. It's great. I mean, it's nice stuff. It begins to melt some of the cognitive chunks that we have in our mind. But to get down to this fundamental place where I am, and I know that I am, and we can't find anyone who is or who knows that it is, and we actually can penetrate through there, that's the gateless gate. That's the real barrier. Everything else is, in a way, a preliminary. And it is not a vacancy. It's not a hole. It's not a nothing. Bodhidharma says it's at rest. I've rested your mind. I've rested your problems. What's at rest? What's he talking about? This koan asks us to go right to that place. Who am I? This Sesshin is asking us to not be satisfied with some small understanding, not be satisfied with something that we've seen or heard, last year, last month, last week, last decade, not to be satisfied with some insight that we've already had, but to vividly and clearly look, investigate this separation. I am, and I know that I am. right here, right now, using your particular practice, using your particular breath, using your particular way of being. And perhaps the manifestation of that is the spacious freedom that we feel as we respond to the cries of the world. Perhaps that response itself is liberation. Perhaps the 8 worldly winds passing through us, feeling the very pain of having this body, feeling the pleasure of the senses, people like us and dislike us, etc. Perhaps it is not that there is something outside of those worldly winds, but perhaps the great mystery of non-separation is flowing spaciously through all things, just as they are. There is a chant, the more we talk and think on this, the further from the truth we'll be. Cut off those useless thoughts and words, and there is no place you cannot go. Returning to the root itself, you'll find the meaning of all things. It is that root that has no foundation, that root that has no other, that root that is got branches and trees growing right through our own being. Muman has a comment on this koan. The broken-toothed old foreigner came 100,000 miles across the sea. He was raising waves where there is no wind. Finally, he cobbled together a single disciple, but even he was a crippled. How stupid. The great master Gensha didn't even know how to read. This is not a practice of perfection. This is a practice of seeing the broken-toothed old foreigner of our own mind, the inadequate, broken part of ourselves, as the manifestation of the great mystery. So, these talks are solely to encourage people to have confidence in your own essential nature and to encourage you to continue to investigate the most intimate thing in your life and to realize the fruits of Dharma right where you sit or stand or walk, so that all beings, including you, are liberated, and that we actually cut the root of suffering. May it be so.